There is a box of gold. It is older than any crown still worn on earth. Men built it in a desert, from wood and firelight. And for 400 years it moved. It went before armies. It stopped at a flooding river. It brought a city's walls down into the dust. It struck men dead when they touched it. It humbled the gods of its captors. And then, without a single line to mark its passing, it vanished. No grave, no battle, no theft recorded. The most sacred object in Israel disappears from history. This is the story of the Ark of the Covenant. Not the movie, the real one. Its making, its marching, its silence. Today we follow it, from the fire of Sinai to the empty room where its trail goes cold. To understand the Ark, begin at a mountain. Sinai. The people have just escaped Egypt. By the earliest reckoning, around 1446 BC, God has spoken. A covenant has been cut, and almost at once, Israel breaks it. They melt their gold into a calf and bow down. It is one of the great betrayals of the Bible. And here is the strange thing. God does not, in the end, abandon them. It is to hand them a blueprint, instructions for a tent and for a box, before the altars, before the courtyard, before the robes of the priests. God describes this box first. It is the center of everything. To build it, he names a craftsman Bezalel, of the tribe of Judah. The text says he was filled with the Spirit of God. Now in the Bible, that phrase usually makes a prophet, or a warrior. Here, for the first time, it makes an artist. Skill and understanding poured into a man's hands, so he could work gold and wood. The materials came from the people themselves. A free will offering, the Hebrews called it terumah. Simply giving because you want to, not because you must. So much came, and Moses had to tell them to stop. It is the only time in the Bible a leader commands people to give less. And what did they build? A chest of acacia wood, a hard desert tree that resists rot and insects. About the size of a small trunk 2 men could carry, overlaid with pure gold inside and out. Wrapped completely, as if it were too holy to have an ordinary edge. 4 gold rings at its feet, 2 long poles slid through them. And 1 strict rule. The poles must never be removed. The carriers would never touch the box, only ever the poles. Holiness, kept at arm's length. And on top, the lid. A single slab of solid gold. In Hebrew, the kapporet. Old translations called it the mercy seat. It comes from a word that means both to cover and to cleanse. So the lid was a lid, but it was also the place where sin was wiped away. At each end of the lid stood a winged figure, a cherub. And here we must fix a picture in our minds. A cherub is not a chubby baby with wings. That image comes from later European paintings. In the ancient world, a cherub was a guardian, a powerful winged creature, lion-bodied, eagle-winged, human-faced, the being carved beside the thrones of kings. 2 of them faced each other across the lid, wings arched forward, covering the space between. And that space was left empty. That space is the whole secret of the Ark. Every nation around Israel made statues of its gods, gold, stone, wood. They believed the God came to live inside the image. You could see your God, feed it, carry it, own it. Israel was forbidden to do this. No image, no idol, no face. Scholars call this aniconism, worship with no picture of God at all. In a world full of divine statues, Israel built a throne and left the seat empty. It was not that God was absent. It was that God could not be captured, not carved, not contained, and not controlled. The empty seat said, "Your God is here," and still no human hand can hold him. So what was the Ark, really? Scholars describe it 3 ways, and all 3 are true at once. It was a throne, the seat of an unseen king. It was a footstool, the resting place beneath his feet. And it was a container, a chest holding 2 stone tablets, the law, the terms of the covenant. Put them together and something clicks into place. In the ancient world, when 2 kings made a treaty, they laid the document at the feet of their God. That is exactly what the Ark is. God enthroned above, his footstool below, and the contract, his law, sealed inside, at his feet. A throne room, a courtroom, and a vault, in a single golden bow. Once a year, this lid became the most important surface on earth. On the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, one man, the high priest, carried blood behind the curtain and sprinkled it on the gold. A nation's sin, wiped from the throne of God. The place of judgment was also the place of mercy. Both met on the same lid. For a long time, people thought the Ark was unlike anything else. The truth is more interesting. Egyptologists have shown its design is deeply Egyptian. A gold-covered wooden chest, carried on poles through rings at its base, crowned with winged figures. In the tomb of Tutankhamun, archaeologists found almost exactly this, a gilded shrine, carried on poles, guarded by a golden animal on its lid. Israel knew this craft. They had lived in Egypt for generations, but here is the difference that changes everything. On the Egyptian shrine sat a statue of a god. On the Ark, the seat was empty. Israel borrowed the furniture of the ancient world and threw out its idol. Same box, different God. Some have argued the Ark was invented much later, that no such thing ever crossed the wilderness. But the details point the other way. The wood, the joinery, the sliding poles, these belong to the Egypt of Moses, not to the later centuries of exile. The oldest explanation fits the oldest evidence. So the box was built. Now it had to move. And moving it was dangerous. Only one family was allowed to carry it, the Kohathites, one clan of the tribe of Levi. And even they could not touch it. Before every march, priests wrapped the Ark, first the inner curtain, then leather, then a pure blue cloth. For every other holy object, the blue went underneath. For the Ark alone, the blue was on the outside. So as the nation moved through the desert, one thing glowed at the center of the camp, a shape of deep blue, the traveling throne of an invisible king. When Israel journeyed, the Ark went first, scouting the road ahead, and every time it set out, Moses cried, "Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered." The Ark was Israel's war standard, what scholars call a palladium, a sacred object carried into battle to declare that God fights with his people. 2 moments proved it. At the Jordan River, in flood, the priests carried the Ark to the water's edge. The moment their feet touched the river, the water stopped, piled up in a heap upstream. The nation crossed on dry ground, an echo of the Red Sea, a new beginning at the door of the Promised Land. Then Jericho, a walled city, a sealed gate, and a battle plan unlike any other. No ram, no ladder, no siege, just a slow circle. The Ark carried around the walls, once a day for 6 days, 7 times on the 7th. Then the trumpets. Then the shout, and the walls fell flat. The victory belonged to no soldier. It belonged to the one enthroned on the box. After the conquest, the Ark came to rest at a town called Shiloh in the hill country. For 3 centuries, this was the heart of Israel's worship, the place you came to pray, to give thanks, to be judged. It seemed permanent. It was not. The trouble began with a defeat. Israel fought the Philistines and lost. And the elders asked the right question: why has the Lord let this happen? But they reached for the wrong answer. They did not repent. They did not pray. They sent to Shiloh and fetched the Ark to the battlefield. Think about what they were doing. They were treating the throne of God like a lucky charm. Carry the box. Win the war as if the living God could be drafted like a weapon. When the ark arrived, Israel roared so loudly the ground shook, and then they lost again. Far worse. 30,000 dead, the corrupt priests killed. And the unthinkable, the ark itself, captured and carried off by the enemy. The news reached old Eli, the high priest. When he heard the ark was taken, he fell backward and died. That same night, his daughter-in-law gave birth, and with her last breath named the boy Ichabod, the glory has departed. One of the saddest names in the Bible. But the ark was not finished. Among the Philistines, it went to war alone. Their idol fell before it, face down and shattered. That idol was Dagon. And if you're picturing a fish god, half man, half fish, you're picturing him wrong. We gave him a whole episode of his own. Dagon was never a fish god, the second in our Canaanite gods series. If you missed it, go back and watch it. The link is pinned in the comments below. Today, we follow only the ark. Their cities were struck with plague. For 7 months, no Philistine town would keep it. Finally, in desperation, their own priests devised a test. They set the ark on a cart and hitched it to 2 nursing cows, cows that had never pulled a load, cows whose calves were locked away at home. Every instinct in those animals said, "Turn back, stay with your young, refuse the yoke." The cows walked straight up the road to Israel, crying for their calves the whole way, but never turning. No driver, no guide, no human hand. The throne of God went home by itself. Israel welcomed it, and then failed again. At Beth Shemesh, people looked into the ark, treating the holy as ordinary. And men died. The survivors asked the question that haunts this whole story. Who can stand before the Lord, this holy God? They sent the ark to a quiet hill town, Kiriath Jearim, to the house of a man named Abinadab. And there, for 20 years and more, it simply waited. Years later, a new king remembered it. David. He wanted the ark in his new capital, Jerusalem, so he threw a parade. 30,000 men, and he put the ark on a cart, a new cart, fresh wood, exactly what the Philistines had done. He had forgotten the one rule. The ark is carried on shoulders, never rolled on wheels. On the road, the oxen stumbled. The ark tilted, and a man named Uzzah reached out his hand to steady it. He touched the box, and he died where he stood. It sounds harsh, but look closely. Uzzah had lived beside the ark for years. Nearness had made him careless. In that instant, he assumed his hand was cleaner than the dirt, that the holy God needed rescuing by a man. David was terrified and furious. He stopped the whole procession and left the ark at a nearby house, the house of Obed-Edom. And here the story turns. For 3 months that house was blessed. The same presence that killed Uzzah poured favor on Obed-Edom. It was never the box that decided. It was the heart that came before it. Approached with reverence, life. Approached with pride, death. The very same fire. When David understood, he did it right. Levites on foot, the ark on their shoulders, sacrifices at every step. And David himself, the king, stripped of his royal robes, danced before the ark like a man who had forgotten he was important. His wife watched from the window and despised him for it. He did not care. He was not dancing for her. At last, the ark reached Jerusalem, and a generation later, Solomon built it a permanent home, the temple. The priests carried the ark into the innermost room, set it beneath 2 towering golden cherubim, and drew out its carrying poles. The poles came out. After 400 years of marching, the ark had finally stopped. It had reached its rest, and a cloud filled the room, the glory of God, so thick the priests could not stand. The journey was over, or so it seemed, because after that day, the ark grows quiet in the record. One last mention, under a good king named Josiah, Then the prophet Jeremiah says something staggering. "A day is coming," he says, "when no one will speak of the ark anymore. No one will miss it. No one will make another." And then Babylon comes. Jerusalem burns. The temple is looted. The invaders write careful lists of everything they carried away. The pillars, the basins, the gold, the silver. And on those lists, the ark is not there. Not captured, not burned, not hidden, not that anyone records. It is gone. The most sacred object in the world walks out of history without a single line to mark its leaving. So what do we make of its journey? From Sinai to Jerusalem, the ark taught one lesson, over and over. The same holiness that saves can also destroy. It was never a weapon to be used, or a charm to be owned, or a relic to be handled. It was the throne of a living God, safe only on His terms, never on ours. Draw near with reverence and find life. Draw near with pride and be undone. And then it vanished. No death, no grave, no final chapter. Just an empty room where the glory used to sit. Where did it go? Was it hidden, destroyed, carried away in secret? For 25 centuries, people have searched in keys and temples and legends from Jerusalem to the mountains of Africa. That search, the mystery of the lost ark, is where we go next.